Hi. Autodesk Inventor is one of the most powerful tools for modeling and virtual prototyping out there. There are a couple other pieces of software, but Autodesk Inventor is my personal favorite, and it's what I'm best trained on. I am going to be doing a series of tutorials on basic features, how to get around the how to get around the software, and how to use some of its more advanced features, which can make designing incredible and amazing things using off-the-shelf parts incredibly straightforward and incredibly easy. So to start, here we've got our welcome window, which pops up whenever you load the software, and it's got a few little options here. I'm going to start off with a new file. So we look at the different file types that are available here. All right, on the left we have the various templates that you can use, and on the right we have the selection. So the standard.ipt is what you use to make most of your standard parts. You can also do sheet metal, which I'll do some tutorials on later. There's assembly files, which is where you put the different parts together to make an assembly. You've got your standard assembly, and you've got assemblies where you weld things together. Now, in welding assemblies, which are really cool, you can't do any. You can't make any new features, which is kind of difficult. So I'll get into that a little bit later. How you want to kind of make frames separately and then use them as a part in a. You can use assemblies within other assemblies as though they're parts, which is kind of cool. And then you've got drawings, which are just absolutely standard drawings. You can do dimensions, you can do exploded views, all kinds of neat things with it. And then you've got your presentation files, which are yet more complicated. Over here, you can switch to English, which will give you inches. You can do metrics, where you can do DIN, millimeters. I think you can also configure it to do JIP, the Japanese inch standard, which is yet different than everything else. So I'm just going to start with the basic standard IPT and show you some of the basic walking around features. So when you start a new file, it's going to be labeled part with some number. This is your main screen where stuff happens. I've got my background set to white. I think it makes the contrast a little bit easier to pick things out, or at least that's what one of my teachers told me, and that's what I've used ever since. So you've got nothing here. What do? You got all these funny symbols up here with things. So the first thing you do is you want to create a 2D sketch, and that brings up your basic planes. You've got an X, Y, Z axis and the planes that are made by the intersections of those axes. So that starts you off with something. You can also make work planes where you start from this and kind of offset it by some distance. I'm not going to use that now, but it comes in very much handy later. I'm just going to create a 2D sketch. So in the sketch menu, sometimes it rotates if you look over here. When it does that, I have no idea why it does that. It seems kind of silly. I always like to rotate it back because it's nice to have a frame of reference for working with parts in terms of what's the top, what's the bottom, what are the sides. That makes it easier later on. I know it's a bit of a pain now, but all you got to do is click a couple buttons, so that makes it good. So here you've got your various sketching tools. Okay, when you do sketches, you do a sketch. I mean, I'm sure if you have any interest in Inventor, you know how to make a basic sketch. You can hit D or you can go up to dimension to make some dimensions. You click on a line or you click on two lines and it'll give you a dimension which you can type in and it will set that dimension for you. Now when you set dimensions in Inventor, it'll often automatically adjust other dimensions that haven't been set in stone yet, which is kind of a pain. So I'm going to draw a couple lines here and show you some of the more interesting things. Sketch constraints, which are incredibly important. Alright, sketch constraints allow you to put different rules that lines will follow when you're making something in order to streamline work and make sure that your dimensions kind of stick better. So I've got a circle here that I just threw in. You can make sure that the circle is going to be tangent to a line using the tangent feature. You can make sure that lines are parallel. I guess there are parallel. Sometimes when you make new features, if you look here when I'm doing this, you'll see that Autodesk pops in various symbols. Like you'll see the parallel symbol pop up when I have the line just right. And you'll see that it gives angles, and it'll have a bunch of predefined sketch constraints just kind of pop up while you're working. That can be kind of a pain. So what you want to do when you've got something like that is you click on a part and you go show all constraints. And then let's say you don't want these two lines to be parallel, you just right click it and delete the sketch constraint. And now this one can be made at a different angle than the other one without them following each other. So let's say I want to move it to 60 degrees. Alright, that's incredibly useful. You can make lines perpendicular. You can set them so that they will be horizontal or vertical according to the sketch plane that you're in. And you can also hide all constraints. Now, this is the menu that pops up when you right-click. It's got a lot of basic features that you use frequently right there for you so that you can do anything you want. Well, a lot of things right at the tip of your fingertips, which is very useful. It's something Inventor incorporated a couple years back to improve functionality. So when you're done with your sketch, you just hit Finish Sketch, which it was up here a second ago, and that'll bring you to the solid modeling, the 3D model view, where you can make things out of it. So I'm just going to do a simple extrusion that turns it into a 3D part. Over here on the left, you've got your modeling. Well, I guess it's like a breakdown of everything that you've done in the part. So here we've got the extrusion, we've got the sketch, we can edit any of them. If you've got a lot of extrusions or sketches, you can also kind of shift their position a bit if you want to make sure that one isn't dependent on another in a certain way. So those are kind of some of the basics. I'll show you a lot of these other features in future videos. You can do measurements of things that you've created if you're not entirely sure how things are. So I just dimensioned this line edge to this edge, and it gave me 10 inches, which is the dimension that you saw me make in the sketch. And the length of this line shows up, that's 15 inches, which is what I just specified. There's a lot of interesting things you can do. You can alter the materials, the appearance. Here's the properties of the part. You can change the name, you can get really into the title, what you want to call that part, who authored it, the company that it was authored for, the manager of the project. You can type about it and tell people what it's for, what it does, why you picked certain sizes, all kinds of things like that. This makes it really easy to manage the part, and it gives you pretty much everything you need, which is wonderful. The last tab is physical, which allows you to select a material. I'm going to select gold. It gives you density. You can get even really high accuracy if you want. It'll give you mass, area, volume. You can also select if you go to the View tab, you can select the center of gravity and view where that is of the part. That'll stay as you rotate. So it kind of shows you. You can... Yeah, this is more for curved parts, so it doesn't really show up on a flat one. You can make it show you the hidden edges, altering the visual style. You can switch it to wireframe with hidden edges, even monochrome, which is kind of nice if you're going to be taking screenshots and printing something in on a black and white printer, which a lot of places have. You can do watercolor. I don't really know why anybody would use watercolor, but it's there. It's kind of nice. Some of the features they have allow you to make parts that look really good. So you can take your ray tracing menu here and you can make it even better. It takes a while to get parts. I wouldn't recommend hitting best. That will max out your processors and really slow you down. But if you really want a nice visual without going all the way to Inventor Studio and rendering something, then that's the way to do it. I hope you found this introduction useful. I will be explaining a lot more of the other features in future videos. Thank you for watching.